Hello, Tuesday Beach House Dentsu. We're very excited to be here with you. So I'm joined by an esteemed panel this morning to talk to you about all things brand building in an AI era, which is a nigh on impossible task to cover in 30 minutes. And someone's going to have to keep us honest on time, so I'm emotionally starting my clock now. So we have with us VINCENZO RIILI, Global CMO of IKEA. I think that deserves a round of applause.
Because you pronounce very well.
Because of your job and you. CILESTA Van Don, Group CMO of British Telecoms, the digital spine of the nation with her personal fan entourage. SABINA STRASSER, who is Senior Director, Brand Experience EMEA, Adobe. Delighted to have you with us. Sabina's Adobe Massive are in the house. And Susan Billingsley, who is the amazing Senior Director of Global Business Marketing at Reddit. We are so delighted. You've all brought personal fan entourages. I am so here for that. So, I've got a clicker. I haven't even checked it works. It does. Right, before we launch into this, and I promised to do no more than 5 minutes on this, I just wanted to set the scene on what we're going to talk about, because we have had a radical shift in the space of brand visibility and brand marketing almost overnight. If you think about it, nearly 60% of searches end in now a zero-click AI summary of sorts. At the same time, you've got people delegating their trust and their authority to AI more than ever before. It's not just that these tools are available to them, they are trusting and sharing their data with it. So we know that in the UK alone, over 50% of people spent time with these large language models on their personal financial planning. And they said they'd be prepared to use it for therapy services and wellbeing services. These are intensely intimate things to be talking about with the internet. The other thing that struck us was that our Dentsu search division highlighted that 15% of searches are now net new to the internet. Things that people had never, this is every day, 15% of searches. So that is suggesting that people are reimagining their relationship with the internet and the kind of conversations they can have with AI and large language models. So with that backdrop, we've been working really hard at Dentsu Creative in partnership with our media teams and our technology teams to understand what is the playbook for brands like yours to win in this algorithmic era without losing that sense of purpose and distinction that has stood you in such good stead to date. And this framework really maps against two horizons, word of machine as we're calling it, and word of mouth. Now that first layer is all about brand visibility. If you're not in the answer and the summary, you're not in the equation for purchase. And machine readability is all about codifying your brand, and Adobe does a lot of work in this space to ensure that you are visible, you are well understood by the large language models. And on the human side, this is about human referenceability. Are you sparking conversations that people want to be a part of, such that they advocate on your behalf when you are not in the room? We've added an additional layer about credibility, and Susan will talk about this a little more because we've worked with Reddit extensively on this, which is that we know these large language models have a human validation criteria in the large language models. And that comprises creative consistency. Is this a brand that knows what it stands for and is consistent over time? So we've had clients, in all honesty, who have a very clear brand positioning that they've invented in the past couple years, but their AIOs are still surfacing positioning statements from 10 plus years ago. So consistency matters for new reasons. And the final quadrant here is about voices of authority, which is super interesting when we get onto that conversation about social and community, because these aren't just voices that spark conversation and volume of chatter. It's about the authority that they would be relevant in an AI summary to answer and resolve that query in the moment. So there's lots of dynamics for you, quite frankly, to be thinking about. But all of that centers around this central theme of brand clarity. And that's probably where we'll start, if that's okay. Because I'm going to come to, I don't know what's happening next. I think it's your faces. No. Hold on, that's a press lunch. I'm going to come back to your faces. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to start with you, Vincenzo, if that's okay. In that context of a shift in the role that AI is playing in mediating brands and how they reach their audiences, what has the biggest learning been for you, a brand that has been so distinctive and iconic for decades? And do you feel there is a change around how you're building your brand?
Yes, I mean, by definition there is, because, the big shift, I think, was a few years ago when the content, the people that talk about your brand is more than what you as marketeers actually do, right? That's the first change if you think about it, right? Now that actually even more prominent, because the content creation, which is doesn't come from any of us, is becoming more and more and more, and will become even more. And so it's very important to make sure that you have a universal truth, an essence of the brand that everybody understands, yeah? So that if there is a content generation that comes and they will feed the machine, because I'm sure then obviously the point is AI then will actually be fed by that, is actually giving back something you will be happy with, right? So it's a huge shift. It's the loss of control, by the way, from us. But then if you are very honest on understanding what your brand stands for, then you make for everybody the job easier to actually make sure that the brand represents itself in the way it should, right?
I think that's really powerful, especially for a brand like IKEA, who, whilst incredibly distinctive, you have always created more of a consistency about your brand than matching luggage. Everything needs to feel and sound like it's coming from the same place. It's been a feeling of wonderfulness in every day, or a feeling of home. So you almost feels like you're more primed for that creator-led, other voices era, because people know what that essence of IKEA is.
Yeah, sure. And actually, it's almost, if you think about how we are internally set up, we give freedom also to local markets to produce their content. But there is, because it's so clear to everybody doing that, what the brand stands for, that you can therefore have a different kind of communication with your Japanese consumer in Tokyo, which has a small flat, and be still relevant in the universal truth of the brand, with the family in the big house in the US, for example, right? So again, going back to that kind of importance of consistency about the value of the brand, that then can manifest through times, through different touch points, through different technologies, which of course the touch point will just increase in the same way. Yeah, so that is quite. I think IKEA starts from a very good point, because for years has been very keen in making sure that everybody understood what the brand stands for.
Yeah, it's a new freedom within a framework, isn't it? You've always got tighter on that nucleus such that you can let go for the others.
That's right, yeah.
Super powerful. And BT, CILESTA, is obviously an iconic brand in its own right that has always transcended, what telco means and feels to people. You have just come off the back of relaunching the brand. So if we come back to that central tenet around brand clarity, how are you feeling about making sure this vast and complex business of yours is well understood by people, but also by those AIs that are mediating it?
Thank you, and it's wonderful to meet everyone. And like Vincenzo said, brand clarity and being authentic in who you are has never ever been more important. And when I look at a brand like BT, but also the brands that we have, EE and PlusNet, we have to be distinctive, and we have to have a real clarity in our brand portfolio, how we go to our customer segmentation, what it is that they need. And I would say, like AI, everything we're doing right now is nowhere if it isn't for humans. So our humans, we are even more important to everything that we're doing currently in every day. Our brand needs to be distinctive. We need to be authentic. We need to know and understand exactly what we stand for. And we need to play where our consumers are playing. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, it's the perfect moment for BT, because obviously you're bringing the BT Group brand back, having meant for a long time consumer telco and then being more allied to business, and now you're sort of going, whether it's AI operations for business, the spine of the NHS, or cybersecurity, we are one thing that carries meaning.
Yeah, we are one. Thank you.
We work together, so I know to say that.
Very much. So yeah, BT Group is back. BT is back as a master brand, and it's showing up in consumer business throughout everything we do. Like, there's so many people that don't even know that BT is handling every single 999 call in the UK. We're protecting the UK from 4 million cyber attacks a day. Yeah, so we're delivering those services, and we're very much trusted. So how do we make sure that people know about it and they want to trust us and want to be with us? So I think we have this perfect opportunity to do that. We launched a campaign in May. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out, because I'm very proud of it. Very proud of it, especially the 90 seconds. But that's exactly what we want to do. We play a very crucial role in society. If BT is not working, the UK is down.
Oof.
Thank you very much. So BT is always working. So yes, thank you. I'm dropping the mic. Thank you.
It's a good note to leave it on because, Sabina, when we were talking about this conversation, you wear two hats as Adobe. You are a brand in your own right, but you're also working in partnership with brands like Vincenzo's and CILESTA's to help them be understood. Could you talk to us sort of in that technology capacity around how do you make sense of businesses this global, this complex?
Yeah, of course. I think the biggest shift there is that first it started with the humans. They were searching, so we optimized for that as marketers. I'm a marketer like you are, so you optimize for this. So now there is this new layer that is a new audience. Like those large language models are a new audience for you, and you need to cater to them in the same way you cater to your human audience. The human audience reacts to those emotions. You just said that very clearly, mic drop. So, they rely on trust, they rely on you building that story and be relevant to them. The AI looks at something very, very different. So how do you go to that new layer that is in between your audience and your brand? And you cannot optimize that the same way because it reacts to the structure and the clarity about the brand that you were just talking about, but it also is heavily dependent on signals that you do not own. So, that is that element that is new for us as marketers that we need to get our head around. And that's where, obviously, from a technology perspective, that's why we, launched brand visibility as a tool to help brands understand how do they get there and what is it where this is coming from. So I think that is extremely important to just stick to who you are, what makes your brand relevant, but understand this new audience that is bringing you to your clients. And it's not just a challenge, it actually also is a huge opportunity. So we've been seeing with the latest SEMrush study that the audience that gets to you via AI is 4.4 times more valuable. So they're way more likely to convert because they come to you in a way later stage of their consideration. So yes, there is a bit of a challenge, but if you do it well, there is also a huge opportunity to get the more valuable customers to you.
I love that. And maybe we'll come back to some of those nuggets that you're finding, because some of this is brand 101, right? As you say, it's consistency, distinctiveness, but those signals and the component inputs to really understand how to codify and structure your brand, there are new aspects there. Now, Susan, I saw your eyes light up when Sabina talked about it's a new opportunity, a new era has dawned on us. How are you seeing this increased opportunity for brands and for audiences and communities?
Yeah, my eyes did light up because I do also think in these situations it's good to focus on the opportunity and not the challenge, right? So love hearing what you guys are saying, and what we are seeing at Reddit is very complementary and supplementary. So what I was laughing about with what you were saying is when you're talking about this new layer. So what we're seeing in shifting consumer behavior is and I'll phrase it in the way that you asked, is like, what is our biggest learning? Our biggest learning has been that AI has really helped collapse, accelerate, shorten discovery and created this new layer. But what it has also done is created a layer post the search about validation. Because while it has improved discovery, it has not helped with certainty. And what we're finding is that there is a little bit of a trust gap with what people are getting from LLMs. So the data shows that the majority of shoppers will actually go validate what they get from an LLM before they actually make a decision or a purchase. And that happens across whether we're talking about the funnel or the customer journey or however we want to talk about it, it happens when people are in discovery asking questions about what should I even be thinking about. It happens when people are like, all right, I saw this answer that said I should do this brand or this brand. What do you think? And people are really looking for a human to validate and back up what they have seen. And I think it's relatable, just as humans, because we're all kind of like, is this slop? Is this real? Can I trust it? So we really do see this change in consumer behavior, which is, yes, LLMs, but also human validation. So I guess the learning and why my eyes lit up about the opportunity is this has created actually a need for a human perspective and a very clear place where brands can play, so that even if you're not the first answer in the LLM, you can be part of the conversation where people are validating it. And so I do think there's a lot of opportunity here. And it's also just what a time to be alive, right? Like, it's just super interesting just of how we're all shopping and how we're all making decisions and trying to navigate this, both as marketers, but also as like consumers and users.
That is such a brilliant segue into the Converse question. I am actually going to go back to the framework because we are back on the top right box around human referenceability. And I'm not suggesting there is misalignment on the panel, but it is a hot topic, right?
Yeah.
You know, Sabina's just told us that, you know, you're 4.4 or 4.5 times more likely to trust an answer that's coming through AI. CILESTA, when we were talking about the panel, you reminded us of Edelman's trust index and that people need 4 sources of truth, and AI in their mind, even though it's drawing on lots, is just one. And you've reminded us, Susan, that that's one stage in, it's not a customer journey, but it's one stage in that inspiration cycle, as you'd call it. So however you frame it, that human validation, that moment of going back into the community, seeing real trusted conversation, sort of sits at the start and in the end of that decision. So I'm going to come back to you, Vincenzo, on this one, because IKEA has been a masterclass in seeing brand integration in the community. You know, you are a sector that lends itself towards hacks and do-it-yourself and, oh my gosh, the bookcase is going to fall on me if I don't do it in the right way. But you are always there with a playful and additive tone. I mean, some of the work that you've done, when I saw you show up in Roblox with your, you know, recruitment campaign for employees, I was like, this is a genius way of joining your audience where they are and where your future talent is. How are you thinking about winning that human referenceability game for IKEA?
No, I mean, for us it's very, very important. I mean, if you think most of the things that actually are happening are organic, yeah, all the arcs, and you know, they came up because people saw in the brand, in the product, creativity, they saw inspiration, and they saw a way to actually be themselves within a frame that was easy to actually assemble. And the human part is part of that and has to remain part of that. You know, for us, obviously, AI will definitely is part of the journey already. We are massively moving with a big transformation to actually have AI into the way we make a business, we communicate to consumer, etc. But it's very important that we don't lose the human touch that makes IKEA in this particular brand a brand that goes beyond what they sell, right? I mean, IKEA is famous because it shaped cultures beyond furniture, beyond this, and that is an important part for us. Unless we are be able to actually keep this kind of human edge, then we will become like a brand like many others, right? And that would be not good, right, for us.
I love how not tactical that sounds, because you're going, actually, we're never going to win on directing those individual forum type conversations. And Susan, I was talking with Jim Squires this time last year about the way that brands show up authentically in these spaces. Actually, it's so much more powerful to transcend that and go, this is actually what we're here to do. These are the tools we're going to equip you with. Go forth and debate and discuss, and we're here on your terms to be useful.
That's right. And again, as I said before, because you know, people see the brand, for example, when they go in store, they see like a beautiful room made with, you know, few things. Again, in a way, you communicate to the people, okay, with a IKEA product, you can do lots of stuff and also change the way to do it. And then it becomes automatic. Thank you to platform are ready to actually to share with others. That thing is another way to inspire people, if you think. So we are not inspire them to make a beautiful house, but somebody else, maybe in São Paulo did that in Brazil, and a guy in Italy, oh, that's a nice one. And that is something that becomes organic again if the brand becomes that honest container which you can express yourself.
I love that. You're broadening the canvas of those access points for your brand.
Correct.
CILESTA, so Spine of the Nation, all the NHS calls, all the 999 calls. How are you thinking about, because let's be honest, telco is a source of beauty and it's a source of pain for people. You know, in the consumer space, it is a lie to say people are on social for anything other than my connection's gone down, I'm complaining about network connectivity. It is hard.
It is hard.
But talk to us about how you're doing that, and in the business space.
I think we as marketeers have, you know, we have the biggest jobs, the most amazing jobs, and we need to be hugely, profoundly strategic in understanding how we get out there. So like I said, the Edelman research, I don't know how many of you know it, but I've been living by it for many, many years. And it always says that you need 4 sources before you trust someone. So advertising is one source. You have PR, it's a different source. CEOs were also gathered to be a source, although their ranking has gone down by hugely trusted to kind of not trusted at all, and then someone who's recommending it to you. The recommending part has been kind of broadened by Google, by Reddit, by the conversations that we have. And we as telco, you know, we have to play in those conversations. We deliver everyday connectivity, and yes, it goes wrong. You know, I cannot pretend to say that it sometimes doesn't go wrong, but we have to play in that place, and that's where we have to make a difference. And for a brand as BT, we need to be better, we need to be on it, and we need to give the people the best service that they have. And if they haven't gotten it, then it is for us to get on top of it and start to deliver it. From a B2B perspective, that's even more crucial. And the way we go about it is really having those amazing campaigns with them, where we go out there, where we change them. So one of the things that we did, we came up, and Helen, who's sitting in the audience, worked together with you guys, we came up with, okay, why don't we go and train people about cybersecurity? So small business owners, we train them to become more aware of cybersecurity so they can tackle it much better. We've given all our customers an upgrade in their cybersecurity, because not a lot of people know that your Ring door camera bell, or your baby, if you have a baby with that monitor, if you're not on a secure broadband, it can be hacked the most easy way. So it's for us to really make sure that that stays in a really great place. And we've been doing some amazing work on that.
Yeah, we've loved working on that with you. I think it's one of the most fine lines to tread, because you can so easily fall into a trap of fear-mongering. But you have kind of gone, I'm really prepared to unleash the expert voices, the leadership voices in this space. We worked with Jenny Radcliffe, didn't we, as our ethical hacker, who kind of took all of her practice and craft into that social community, but with CEOs and business decision makers. So it's a totally new shape of conversation.
And that's where we are creating those conversations, and that's where we end up and starting to change the conversation. So I'm really happy with that.
Amazing. Right, Sabina, we're going to ask you to pop your brand and marketing hat back on as Adobe.
Yes,
because we often talk about you as effectively the OG creator brand. This is sort of, you're defined by your community. So how do you think about that equation?
Yeah. So for us, obviously creativity and the creative community are our DNA. And we're lucky in a way, because we didn't construct it. It grew automatically by offering something that people helped everyone build their expression and also their craft. So that community genuinely exists because we provided something valuable for them. And I think that is where it always starts. You need to have something that is relevant, and you need to try to understand why it is and how you get better at it. And especially in this moment, that's a very interesting moment for that creative community, with AI coming in, obviously. And, our role is to be there with the community in the moments that matter, like here, in smaller moments and bigger moments, being there, listening to them, being there on what they care about. And it's a double-edged sword. There is 87% of creators say AI made them grow. It's helpful. But then there is also an area where, there's suspicion on what that means for the creative community. So we need to be there and be with them. And that's also here, why we are really happy to be the first headline partner of the new Creator Beach, because that community is there and is looking for the community to come together. And secondly, we've always taken that step at, and you know that very well when we do creations with you, is it's not about us being creative, it is about the people that are creative with our tools. And that is what you see here in our ads. It's celebrating the creators, it's celebrating the brands, it's celebrating the C-pros, because they are what we are. And that is just something that you cannot construct.
Yeah.
And that isn't always easy. Like you said, that isn't always easy.
It's sort of an extension of what Vincenzo was saying about that kind of controlling to inclusion and having them a part of the brand as opposed to thinking about them as advocates at the last mile. And, if I think about our WFA campaign, the game is yours to make, and the way you were so committed to investing in the Alessia Russos of the world, but the sports talent, the creative talent, it was sort of MPD on show. We're going to innovate for the fans, and that is going to become our content. That is the campaign and the brand. We're going to see this. So it affords you such integrity in the space. Susan, builds from your perspective, or perhaps brands that are doing this well, because it is such a tricky dance.
It is. So I'll start by saying I really love the term human referenceability because it really gets to first principles, because we get so caught up in LLMs and visibility and how do I get there. But the reason LLMs are citing Reddit as much as they are is because LLMs are focused on answering a human question. So they're looking for an answer that is specific. They're looking for an answer that can be trusted, that is in a conversational tone, like all the things that actually happen in human conversation. So it really is about how do we get humans to talk about us as much as it is how do I get in an LLM, right? Which isn't a totally new concept. As marketers, we've always wanted people to talk about us, right? And so I want to key off something you said, which is like, it is very hard to know, okay, we got to do something relevant. So what is relevant? And the amazing thing is that Reddit actually exists as a platform to help you surface what is relevant, because, upwards of 40% of all conversations that happen on Reddit are about products and services and are commercially related, which is interesting because when people get in these sub-communities and they're talking about their passions and their interests, a lot of it is like, did you get this? Did you get that? They want to talk about the gear they got, the tent they bought to go camping, like how good their spray skirt is on their kayak and whatever, right? So it actually does become very commercial. And so there is a ton of data there about what is relevant. Like, what do people care about? What are they excited about? What are they not excited about? So there is actually a great wealth of information there that people can really play into. So when we talk about brands that have done it really well, the first thing that we talk to brands about is just show up. These conversations are already happening, and I think sometimes it sounds really hard. Like, we have to get in there, find something relevant, do an incredible campaign that's going to blow the world apart, And it actually starts out pretty simple. The conversations are happening, and people are really open to hearing from brands. They are literally there to find information. Now, they don't want crappy ads, and they don't want ads that, make them feel, you treat them with respect, right? You don't want schlocky ads. We say you're walking into a dinner party, so you want to treat the audience with respect. But people are very open to hearing about brands. So number one, just show up and be in the conversations that are already happening. And then we can look at brands like, I'm going to call out a few, American Express, Hoka, Dove. There's Philadelphia cream cheese. There's some that are very top of mind that have actually seen something, saw something, and then created something out of it. And there's so many degrees of crawl, walk, run of how you can do this. But I'll use Philadelphia cream cheese as one example. So there's a subreddit called Kitchen Confidential, and a guy literally was chopping chives and going in there and daily was it's hard to do and trying to get better, and the community is being supportive and being you're holding the knife wrong and whatever. And so it starts becoming a really big thing. It kind of goes viral. So Philadelphia cream cheese got in there and was Chive Lord, which that's what they started calling this guy. It's Chive Lord does all of this. We put it in our cream cheese and does this whole thing, which then attracts press attention, then starts getting your 4 touch points. And so that's an example of just springing on something. American Express took a very different route, which is really okay, we've used the data to figure out what people care about and what they're interested in and what questions surface the most. So how do we create a campaign that is consistent, both in terms of messaging, but also in terms of timeliness, or cadence, let's say. So they started putting out, using Reddit formats, TILs, AMAs. The platform has done an excellent job of launching formats that actually bring conversation into the actual ads. So they did a bunch of stuff to actually create answers specifically to these questions. So anyway, those are some examples you can look at, but it's just a really great wealth of information.
It really is. In the interest of time, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to come via Sabina, CILESTA, and Vincenzo for one final thought on exactly that note from Susan, which is the role of creativity, because this framework is nothing without distinction, a belief that is chosen about what your brand has a right to do in the world and the role it plays in people's lives. So if I come back this way, Sabina, you're a technology brand. You're obviously empowering inherently creative humans. Yeah. How are you seeing that balance?
So we fundamentally believe that while AI is getting more viable, the human creativity becomes even more valuable. Because we all heard you talk about this. It's people react to those things that are new, that are fresh, and it's the idea behind what you do. You know, the idea that you just cited wasn't planned. It's something you saw. And that is, so the best ideas, you know, come of those ingredients of experimenting, which is truly human, which is about doing something that hasn't been done before. And then, you know, building that based on culture, because that is the cultural moment there about, you know, people going into cooking. So those things, you can't do them based on data points. That is in general like coming the ingenuity of creativity that we all need to bring, and you know what our human brands are and what people will ultimately react to. And you know what we were talking about, the Women's FA Cup, which is something that was very close, very, very close to our heart, is exactly where you did that. You're not an ad break. You are there doing something that genuinely is for the fans, is for the people that shape that community through their creativity. And that creates loyalty, not just for you, but also for the things that they care about.
I love that. That is such a brilliant bridge back into kind of reminding ourselves of our own purpose, what we are here on this earth to do as brands. And CILESTA, your career, actually, even more than BT, has always been about transcending that core product moment and sales moment. Talk to us a little bit about just the example you shared on EE with what you've done with Yes Boys. I think is just such a beautiful application of creativity meets brand meaning.
Yeah, so Yes Boys is a campaign for EE that's in the World Cup, and it is talking to boys who are in social media and with their parents who find it really hard. And this campaign talks about it to the boys, about how they can set themselves up differently. So we as a brand, creativity is important, but making a difference is even more important, because we have a responsibility as brands to make a difference and to take that responsibility very, very seriously. So Yes Boys is a beautiful campaign around, you know, the World Cup, in really creating that moment where our boys are getting stronger and stronger against the social media pressure.
What a gorgeous note to leave BT on here. And Vincenzo, I guess, you know, it's been decades of creative innovation. You talk about experimentation. Not everything needs to be scaled and standardized for the world. Talk to us about some of those that are closest to your heart in the world of IKEA, where you've really applied that could only come from a human level of insight.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think there is a big opportunity also to look at the human part, the partnership. For example, now we did a meatball lollipop, right, with Chupa Chup, right, which is something that, you know, in the world of AI is the most analogic thing you can do, right? But it exploded online, yeah? It really exploded. Everybody wants to try this lollipop. Everybody wants to go in store, because you only can taste if you go in store and try a meatball lollipop. And again, and that is just an example of how you really need to make sure that you keep that twinkle in the eye, that kind of rebellious way to do that. And therefore, in this very digital world, the analogic part of sparking a smile and an interest is something I'm looking forward to carry on doing.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you, for a fantastic conversation. Stay playful, stay funny, stay sometimes a little bit ridiculous, because who knows, people might like it. You've been a joy. Thank you so much. And thank you.
Thank you.